Glenn was meaning to say when we were happy. It says as we were happy as if we had good sense. I think that's kind of what he meant there. But I appreciate it. I went over there one day with my little short skis. They used to make skis that didn't have these kind of binders. They had a slot through here that you put a leather deal so you could stuff your toe under the leather. And then we cut inner tubes, and that was our binder for cross-country skiing. Hold them in there like that. And my little skis were only about so tall. And when you pulled behind Orange's horse, they'd go like this. The next thing I was standing on my head. And I got soaking wet because I'd skied all the way over there cross country after lunch one day. So I was soaking wet, and they hauled me in finally in front of the, I don't even think your mother had a fire in that stove, Glenn. It was cold. And they put me in that box. And Glenn, you see, he's doing this kind of stuff when he's in the 4th grade, 5th grade. And he and Larry took me home. The mother, as far as old Coffee could go, like they always went. And I think Glenn actually lifted me up and carried me in the house because there was no way I was able to walk. And so then I was telling him that the other day on the phone. He says, I got one that's better than that. And he did. That was there. So anyway, let's get on with it here. I've got to hurry. Yeah, I had a leper's prints. And here's where we go. 1943. Experiences included riding prints all over Upper Pine Creek's bench with their neighbor Evelyn Cruz and her mare Sugar, and my classmate and friend William Boots and his mare Toots, which happened to be Evelyn's horse too. And Evelyn and Gloria had a playhouse. Did you ever get to play in that, Gloria? The playhouse on the end of the woodshed, the east end? Okay, I'll tell you about it so you'll know. And Evelyn made a watermelon cake. Now, how many of you have ever made a watermelon cake? Do I see any hands? What's a watermelon cake?
We made watermelon preserves, but not cake.
Okay. Well, I was talking to a little teenager the other day from Albion, Oregon, and she says, well, I think you cut out a watermelon. No, I said, that's not right. Evelyn knew how to do watermelon cake. Raisins for the seed, red coloring for the cake dough, and green frosting. That makes you a watermelon cake. Right? That's that simple. And it was a real treat after one of our rides. But then the story about the hilarious rotten egg fight I had in the schoolyard with my brother Lynn and my friend Dick Loggy. Our hens would wander across the schoolyard, and the wild rose bushes would grow up along the school, and the hens would lay eggs in there, and we never did know where they were. And one day I got out of sorts with Dick and Lynn, but I never did hit them. But it was hilarious that I tried to hit them with a rotten egg, and Dick, he'd just step over and the egg would go by, you know, and they were kind of laughing at me, but anyway, it's a special memory. Entertainment. We had to have entertainment. And the first one, I put Glenn at the forerunner. The farms kids coming to school in the winter. His old crappie was just stretched out, and Glenn was up there driving, and Dolores and Larry was in the back, and the snow was flying, and that was always good because we never did have a snow day, did we, Glenn?
Oh, no.
Because we were in it, under it, around it, and about it, but we never had a snow day. Yeah. One afternoon, one of Herman Jessen's black team ran onto the wooden cover of the barnyard cistern. How many people there know what a cistern is? All right. Had to have them up on Pine Creek bench, store your water. They had a cistern out in the barnyard. They had a cistern under the house. Grandma Jessen could just use that old pitcher pump and get her water right in by the stove. Anyway, let's get on with it here. If I can quit shaking. The black team on the wooden cover of the barnyard cistern, it fell in. It was a pretty good sized cistern there up by the barn because they milked quite a few cows as well. Quite a spectacle to see the rescue, and luckily the water was low enough to save the horse from drowning. Young Herman had to pump out some to aid in the rescue. But neighbors were there. See, neighbors gathered. We always done that. People heard about that when I think they heard the splash and come running. It was amazing how that was. Watching Jim Boots, do you remember Jim Boots, Gloria? He was riding a horse named Spider. I think he was a 2 or 3 year old he was just breaking. And he was racing down the lane on the south side of the main house there that was headed for the barn because it was milking time. Well, the thing about Jim riding that horse all day, he'd come down that lane, and then you took a left turn over to the gray house that they've made into a wood shop now for dinner, because that's where the family lived. He'd tie the horse up there for lunch, and then he'd go riding. Well, here comes Jim down. He had his spurs on and his chaps and his hat and everything. He's headed to the barn because it's quitting time. And let me read you about this. Came down the lane to the Cruise Ranch barn from the county road, and the amazing turn of events. I'll say it was, Spider turned, Jim didn't, and he surfed on down toward the barn for about 40 feet. And I was standing right there watching him, so that was an amazing story. He survived. Jim got up and survived. Seeing the threshing crew load and haul the oat bundles to feed the threshing machine. Herman Winterfield owned the threshing machine, and it was a real treat to see Herman Jessen load his own wagon with his black G and Haw team. Who knows what G and Haw means? Anybody here? Tell me. Thank you. And Pa Jessen would go down there and load that bundle wagon, and we didn't need spike pictures for him. It was amazing to watch him. A wonderful gentleman. Catching sight of a coyote in early November venturing across the fall plowed fields from the north side of the bench in Jessen's place towards Pine Creek on the south side of the Harry Cruz place. And hot on its tail was Kenneth Cruz on Evelyn's mare Sugar. It was at least a mile run. The coyote made it into a quaking aspen cove and saved his bacon. So that was that story. Another memory is the in-hand experience, heavy on the in-hand, with a rotten egg whilst cleaning Jenny Jacobs' chicken coop. Bam, they go just like firecrackers, that. Yeah. Anyway, not to mention the stinging nettles around the outside of the coop. Anybody ever had any experience of stinging nettles? It's not like soft Great Northern, I'll tell you that. Okay. I got to digress here a little bit. Going back to the chores that people were supposed to do, the missus and the mister. An old timer that was raised way over by the Wyoming line, eastern Utah, was telling me that we used to adjust hail damage in crops for the Farm Bureau Insurance Company. And he says, Gary, it's interesting how some people get along in their lives and how these tasks at home get assigned for the husband and wife. And I'm living here a little bit, you can tell. But he said, this young couple come home to the homestead and was ready to take up normal living like we all did. And when he got up to go out to go milk the cows at 5 o'clock in the morning, she says, build a fire on your way out, honey. Well, what he did is he built the fire in the oven. So you can tell who done building the fire after that, can't you? This is the best one. This is the best one of all. And Gloria may not remember this one, maybe she does. One mid-morning, Mother turned on the water tap. It come in there on the north side of the house, right there, in the water bucket here, and the wash basin and everything. She had a bucket there. She's getting ready to prepare dinner of some sort. And she turned the water tap on and got a gathering of maggots. Now that pipe, to us, it wasn't filtered in the cistern like Gloria's was, Tony. It comes straight down the pipe. Okay? That put the Wieses and the Cruise Ranch on high alert since both entities depended on the spring on the lower westerly side of the mountain back to the Cruise Ranch. It was covered with a wooden spring box which had aged some over the years, and a desperate and sickly black bear had the audacity to die on top of it.
Oh.
Well, we had the better of the Cruise Ranch for a change. They had the new bathroom and stuff, and we still had the outhouse. But we just had to let the water run until the maggots were out of the pipe. They had to clean the cistern so they could use the water for their culinary purposes. Otherwise, I guess they let the livestock drink the maggots. I don't know what they did over there.
Over there.
Anyway, that stirred up the country. That elicited an exodus up to the spring box to see what the heck had been going on. Winter Saturday night sleigh rides to the neighbors for the social neighborhood gathering to play pinochle. I think the last social we had of that was up to Delbert's, Fritz and Mabel's place. And all of us young guys got on the toboggan, Delbert. You remember that? And we went down the hill. And I made it through the fence on the toboggan. My brother Lynn's hanging upside down on the barbed wire. And the rest of those guys smart enough to jump off before they got there. I think Essel was the first one off. He was on the back. Anyway, that was quite an adventure as well. Okay, sleigh rides over to the neighborhood together to play pinochle, visit and enjoy cake and ice cream, homemade ice cream no less. I fell asleep at one held at Herman and Anna Jessen's, and the next morning riding his mare Queen at full gallop came their son Albert, bringing me a half-gallon honey bucket with ice cream and a fine cut of chocolate cake I had missed by falling asleep too early. Anna Jessen thought about me, and I appreciated that. I should add there that anybody that knew Albert Jessen, I knew him how he rode Queen, I knew him how he drove his car. About the same. Bless his heart, and he was a good friend of mine too. Once in a while, men folks would get their chores done and cross-country ski over to the Snake River Rim, hike down to the Jaeger Eddy on the river and fish for whatever they could catch, mainly whitefish. Ernie Fisher, who now lived up in Arnold Winterfield's old place, was the master of smoking them with chokecherry wood. As you guessed, those smoked whitefish were very, very tasty. Excuse me, I've got to get some water. I'm almost done.